We often imagine that achieving everything we want all at once would finally bring us peace. We daydream about lottery wins or overnight stardom, assuming that removing the struggle for survival solves every problem. But history and psychology actually suggest that sudden, massive success can trigger a collapse of a completely different kind. Psychologists call this sudden wealth syndrome. For many, the transition to extreme riches creates an immediate crisis of identity. The documented symptoms include intense paranoia toward friends and family, deep social isolation, and a loss of purpose that frequently leads to self-destructive behaviors. This chart shows the inverse relationship often found in these cases. As wealth climbs, psychological stability drops. Human brains are wired for the struggle of solving problems. When that struggle is instantly removed, the mind frequently retreats into arrogance or complacency. Total success represents a profound psychological hazard rather than a finish line for human effort. This psychological trap was recognized long before modern clinics. 3,000 years ago, the nation of Israel stood on the border of a massive, high-stakes wealth transfer. Across the border lay an unearned abundance, fully built cities and mature orchards they hadn't planted. But their leader, Moses, looked past this prosperity with dread. He was deeply concerned about what this sudden wealth would do to their character. The book of Deuteronomy records his final preparations for this transition. It serves as a survival guide for a people about to inherit more than they ever worked for. Moses reminded them that their preparation began in the desert. For 40 years, they lived in an environment of total deprivation, where the rocky terrain offered no natural means of support. During this time, they were sustained by manna, a food that appeared daily. However, it came with a strict condition. Each household could only gather enough for one day's needs. Any attempt to stockpile manna for the future resulted in the food immediately rotting. This mechanism made it impossible for any individual to build their own independent security. God used this forced scarcity to engineer a new psychological habit. The goal was to replace self-reliance with a daily, active dependence on the provider. This training was eventually codified into the nation's laws. The Sabbath was the primary tool used to maintain this mindset once they moved into the land of plenty. By halting all work and defense one day every week, the Israelites accepted a massive risk. While their hostile neighbors continued to sharpen swords and harvest crops, Israel remained intentionally vulnerable. This practice reinforced a specific theological principle, that human life is sustained by every word from the mouth of the Lord, not just the bread we can produce. These laws act as a structural safety mechanism, forcing humanity to regularly practice trust in a world that demands self-sufficiency. When the Israelites finally entered the Promised Land, the daily manna stopped. They began working the soil and reaping massive harvests. But Moses warned this comfort was their most dangerous point, when stomachs would be full and gold multiplied. Prosperity often leads to a specific form of arrogance, the internal belief that my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth. Forgetting how you achieved success while living in its shadow is the primary threat to faith. The desolate desert and the abundant Promised Land demand the same internal posture. Whether in survival or in luxury, the requirement for human thriving remains the same. These ancient laws and limitations provide a protective tether, keeping humanity grounded even when the external struggle for survival disappears. True flourishing comes from maintaining a daily, unbroken reliance on the builder, rather than the mindless accumulation of the things we build.